Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time.
All right. Thank y'all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hey, I'm Nate from Deepest Darkest.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well. Thank you so much for joining us.
You bet.
I want you to tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah. Again, I'm Nate with Deepest Darkest. We're an indie guitar rock band. We're out of the Portland area, specifically unincorporated Milwaukee, and or the Good Land, they call it.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're all about guitars and a little bit of trumpet involved in the set. And we like Led Zeppelin and Tom Petty and things like that, and a lot of modern bands. Spoon is one of them that we really like, and there's just anything that has guitar in it, I generally like.
Yeah, no, I dig that. Definitely checking out your sound. That checks. Also, I got to see you guys live for Camp Crush's show.
Oh yeah, so much fun.
Yeah, they were great, and I mean, you guys were awesome too. That's how I found out about you, and I was like, well, I'm gonna be talking to them.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, and we love Camp Crush. They are very close friends of ours, and if you haven't seen them already, everyone at home, check out Camp Crush. They're phenomenal.
Very much so. And you can check out their episode in the past, 3 weeks ago? Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere back there. But getting back to you, what got you into music initially?
Oh, gosh. I've been playing trumpet since I was in middle school, and my neighbor across the street, Ron, he was just a phenomenal trumpet player. Still is a phenomenal trumpet player. And I just was enamored with the big band that was at our high school I grew up in Gladstone, Oregon, and the band was phenomenal. I just heard that and I was like, that is what I want. I want to be like Ron. And I took lessons from him. I ended up keeping at it and just took that and sort of learned about a lot of things in music, but then, I was like, you can't write a song on the trumpet very easily. So I picked up guitar and started learning how to, strum some John Denver chords. And, then, I could keep doing guitar and trumpet and maybe incorporate the two. So I've, from the very beginning, writing my first songs with my buddy Aaron Trube, always thought about the trumpet as being a part of the band and incorporating guitar, trumpet, and just sort of seeing where that could go. And I've just always done that.
Gotcha. I dig that.
Yeah.
Was anybody else in your household musical growing up, or are you first generation?
No, for sure. My mom is an amazing cellist, and my grandmother was an amazing piano player. My grandmother, in fact, accompanied me at the state jazz festival, the state solo contest. And so she was, legit talent. There were other people in my family that played, and I just sort of, that was just what you do in my family. So I was always around it. And, growing up, going to church, played in church and met, a lot of the guys who ended up being in my my early bands at church. I don't know if you've heard of the band Tango Alpha Tango. They're a local Portland band, really phenomenal. And Nathan Trube from that band was in my first band, the Carolines, and we all met at church, and so that was like the best place to meet people.
Yeah.
To put together a band. It was almost like they're just
Good idea.
yeah. Start going to church. Yeah. No, it was a really great place to meet people and end up kind of keeping a lot of these guys I still know and still hang around to this day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I dig that. Now, before we get into more of what you do with music in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on. And this first one is one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Well, proud to say it was Huey Lewis and the News 4.
Okay.
Yeah, on vinyl. My Aunt Terry took me to Bi-Mart, and I picked it out, and I was like, this is what I want, because it had Hip to Be Square on it. That was my jam.
Yeah.
And so that was it. I mean, and I still listen to that record. It's
I mean, it's kind of timeless. It's definitely a super solid choice. Do you still have that like actual record?
I do not. I don't know where it is, and I don't know. I may replace it. It has just an iconic, cover with the guy standing against the wall, and of course, I still love Huey. I think I need to buy it again.
Well, if you do, let me know. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to? So like you saw what was happening, you got the tickets, you went to it.
Probably the one that I was most impactful was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers right after the Wildflowers came out, which is, I think, still my favorite record of all time. And I saw him at the Memorial Coliseum in, I think it was 1994. Unfortunately, that probably dates me, but I was like, gotta go to this. And I think it was $24, and it was absolutely phenomenal. It was like, he played all the songs I wanted from, his previous catalog, but then a lot of the Wildflower stuff that I just still love to listen to.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, that definitely sounds like a really powerful moment.
Yeah.
And then before we officially get into you in the now, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
I feel like those moments happen all the time for me.
Okay.
I still, every time I go see a live show, I'm just like, this is what I want. And I'm like, I just said that yesterday. Yeah, I know, but today I really want it. And I go through that like literally every time I hear somebody, inspiring or, being around my friends who are doing it all the time. I'm constantly reinforced that like, yes, I want to take this more seriously. When I was younger though, I mean, it was definitely the story of, neighbor Ron on the trumpet. I was like, that's what I want.
Gotcha.
And I want to be like that. I want to play music. And then when I, got older, started my first bands, it was, just the community part of it, seeing, meeting people, seeing how much of a community it was between the bands and musicians. I was like, I just want, whatever it takes, I want to be a part of that. And that's like literally every day of my life since.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love the idea of every day is a new defining moment for you to want to continue to do music.
Yeah.
I
love it. It inspires me every day. And not just listening to music, but being around people in music and like just seeing them create a thing or do a thing and get better. And
there is something really special about like the energy in the room of people making music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like not even so much like the live shows, obviously the energy is there for a million reasons, but like that air in the space when you're just creating it.
Yes.
Is so special.
Yeah. And the people who are most inspiring to me are the ones who are like, constantly as excited as I am about what just happened. And it might be the most basic thing. Like I just figured out how to get this slightly better snare sound.
Yep.
And they're just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe how amazing the snare sounded. I'm like, I mean, it's not that much different than the one that was right before this, but hey, I mean, it's inspiring. It makes me excited. And and again, seeing them like have goals and then achieve them. And in the Portland area, I know a lot of the musicians and I've seen them pick up the guitar and say, I want to start doing this. And then I've also seen them, headline at Mississippi Studios or the Crystal Ballroom. And I'm like, that's just so awesome. That for me, that's what it's all about, is seeing people like do a thing, get better at it, create, make everybody else happy. And then
rinse, wash, and repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
All right, now let's go ahead and let's get on into more review in the present day. We are going to get a super easy one out of the way first, though. How'd you pick the name?
Deepest, Darkest. I like a little bit of a play on words. And for me, that was like, obviously Deepest, Darkest Secrets. But the fact that we're not necessarily that deep and that dark, it's a little bit of a sarcastic name too, because if you know me, you don't think of me as a deep, dark guy. You think of me as
fair
on the nerdy side, maybe a little too happy. Nothing deep or dark about me. So it's just kind of a funny, whimsical name.
Gotcha. Well, it's definitely a really cool name. It was
Thank you.
It stood out to me almost instantaneously when I saw it on the flyer, because easy to remember, easy to spell, alliteration. I'm a big fan, Jimmy's Jambox. I'm right there with you on that. Just all in all, it's a very thought-provoking name without having to like figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like those two words, you hear them, they sound a specific way when you say them, but you hear it and you're like, ooh, there's something there. But you don't have to put the effort into trying to like Rubik's Cube the answer out of it.
Wow, thank you for saying all of that. I don't know if I thought about it that much, but
it's definitely one of those things that I think comes with time more than the initial thought. But very cool name.
Thank you, because it beat out some real garbage names that we came up with earlier.
Do you remember any of them?
Yeah, I don't even know if I could say one of them. It doesn't age well. But then we had one that was a joke about Linux programming, and it was just like, it was called Pseudo Love Me, and if anybody gets that, God help you.
I don't per se, but I'm familiar with the concept, and that's a fun one.
Yeah.
All right, now let's go ahead then. Let's talk about your writing process a little bit. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. How do you go about getting a track started?
I mean, for me, sometimes it's that I'll be just humming something and doing something as dumb as making a little beat out of in my mouth, while I'm in the car or just like sitting around, and I'll just go, and that sounds like nonsense out loud right now, but maybe I'm kind of thinking of some of the things that might go along with that basic foundation, and then I'll try to recreate it later on the guitar. Sometimes it happens like that, but most of the time it's like I'll just be goofing around on the guitar, and I'm really good at just attempting a lot of just horrible things on the guitar that nobody should ever have to hear, and they don't, because I do this by myself.
Well, we actually have all the record now.
How'd you but yeah, I'll just like literally try things. It's almost like making up words or something. That's the way I kind of think about it. And I just start hitting on the guitar, and then next thing you know, I'm like, oh, that's a cool little thing. And I think it's kind of like improvisation. Maybe being a trumpet player and doing a lot of jazz improvisation helps with that, but I just kind of get into a flow where I'm just like, just whatever happens.
Yeah.
And a lot of horrible things, just really bad ideas come out, and I use a voice recorder on my phone, and then I get done and I name it something stupid like happy fun song, key of F, and then that's just so that I can remember what it was later.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll just let it sit for a week or 2 weeks, and so my brain forgets about it, and then I listen back to it. And sometimes it just sounds horrible 2 weeks later, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That's actually cooler than I thought it was at the time. And then I'll just sort of like work off of that. And sometimes ideas come in giant droves where almost a whole song comes out. But a lot of times, and most of the time, it's like I'm doing 4-bar sections and thinking about things I'd recorded 2 years ago and pulling them out again. But I start with always with the music part, and then lyrics almost always come later.
Yeah. And as far as the lyrics go, are you traditional pen and paper? Are you doing it in the phone? I imagine you're not just freestyling off the top on all this.
It's a combination. I mean, I definitely don't like. I don't have a capable enough brain to remember, so I have to write it down.
Fair.
I just don't have some of the photographic memories that my friends have.
Yeah.
Who could just wing it. But I'll just sort of a little bit freestyle. Sometimes I like the way a word sounds.
Yeah.
And then I try to work around that. But for the most part, yeah, I'm thinking about like, what do I want to say, or how do I want to say a thing, and I'll write it down, and
Gotcha.
I'll cross things out, and I'll go back and again, like I did with the music part, I'll go back 2 weeks later and say, that's cool, or that is so stupid. Why did I think that was good 2 weeks ago? But that's just, to me, that's editing. I can't be afraid to just throw something out.
Yeah. Well, I'm envious. I've never been a lyrics guy. I'm a bass player by nature and talk box on the back end. But
Yeah.
that is anytime it's like people are like, oh yeah, I have these ideas that sometimes they're not good. I'm like, what does the other side feel like where they are good? So I could definitely dig that. And then as far as like the band dynamic goes,
Yeah.
are you the primary writer, or does like everybody kind of work on the music for the band together?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I have the majority of the song done before I come to practice. Every once in a while, I don't have, I have like a skeleton of a song, and I'll just say to the band, like, hey, does anybody have any? What if I play this? Like, what comes to mind? And for better or worse, most of the time I just have it already kind of ready to go.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have super talented people in my band, and I always have, where they're just like, what if we did this? And Nat Johnson, the guitar player in my band, we've been, musical siblings, I call him, for years now. And I mean, he just has the same taste as I do. And so he sometimes is just like my savior when it comes to like, what if we did this with it? And I love that, and I need that. And in the past, I've had other band members who took a little more active role. Jared Abraham was a drummer that was the original drummer in the band, and he and I played in previous projects together. He was pretty active with me in the middle of the songwriting process, and he was a really good editor, and told me, hey, Nate, that sucks. And and I've grown a thick skin. I can take that, and I know it's for the best.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, for the most part, I'm bringing it to the group, and then they're turning it into magic.
Yeah, making a full song out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. And then once you guys have a track finished writing, so it doesn't have to be like recorded and released yet, but you've gotten it, you're ready to start practicing it. How long does it usually take you to feel comfortable enough to perform a track?
I would say I like to get, once we know the format of the song and we're pretty comfortable with, where it's going each time the chorus comes, like we know it's coming up now. Once we get to the point where we can get through it, I like to have a good, 3 or 4 rehearsals where we can play it flawlessly. Some of the songs that I write are really basic and don't take much. And then other ones, for some reason, I try to get fancy and Steely Dan on people. And I mean, then sometimes I'm like, okay, I can't get through the song. Usually it's me that's the hang up. It's not the other guys. They're always, solid and have their parts down. And then I'm just like, I can't even make my fingers work or sing and play at the same time. So they're usually waiting on me to get my act together.
Gotcha. Okay, but generally it's the like, once you have it comfortable, it's about 3 to 4 practices out.
Yeah. I mean, I know some people that will write a song and then the next day perform it in front of people. And I do not have that in me. I guess maybe I'm too proud or something, and I need to let that go, I know, but I just have this, I'd like to have it a lot more polished before I put it in front of folks.
I think I don't think either direction is the wrong way to go.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's one of those things where it's like some songs you want to get out there as soon as possible because you're just so excited about them. Yeah. But like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to play it well when you bring it to people. You know what I mean? Like that. I think is thoughtful of you, among other things, to be like, oh, I want to do a good job when we show people these songs for the first time.
I do know that sometimes the one cool thing that can happen is the magic of the first time you play it. Mm-hmm. If you play it early enough in the process, sometimes magic can happen where you're like, oh, we kind of screwed up the song, but then something really cool happened the first time we played it live, because it is way different when you play it first time in front of folks, as you know.
Very much so.
So, I do think there's value in bringing something way early.
Yeah. See, I'm a firm believer that you should play the songs live before you ever go to the studio with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, like, and again, that's just me. I know some people that won't play a song until there's a recorded version of it. But there's so much that comes from, like you said, like even past that first time, every time you play it live is an opportunity to just kind of wing it a little bit.
Yeah.
And you never know when you're going to stumble onto like the coolest version of the thing you're doing.
Also, why are you holding out songs? Like, like give them to the people. They want the songs.
Exactly.
And I totally agree with you. I just play the song, get it out there, see what happens. Mm-hmm. And you might end up realizing you have lightning in a bottle on something, and you got to get the song recorded.
Yep.
And it might speed the process up for you when you get people's response, and they're like, and then also you're building anticipation for when that record comes out.
Exactly. I think letting the audience know it exists before there's a physical copy can go. Like, I get it if you're like going on tour across like the country, it's good to drop a couple new ones so that people have like a thing to be excited for that one time. But no, I'm a firm believer that you should play things out before you get them recorded.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you just are making so much money that and you're like Apple, like you're waiting for the big announcement. That just doesn't. That's not most of us.
No, at least not most of the people that are on this show yet. But actually, that segues well. Let's go ahead and let's talk about some of your music. Mm-hmm. So I jumped on ye old Spotify.
Nice.
And you've got music going all the way back to 2013.
Oh yeah,
so you've been in it for a minute.
We've been in it for a minute, and I've always thought, little history on Deepest Darkest. We started as a side project. I was playing, in the band The Carolines, and Nat Johnson was playing in Derby, a phenomenal band. And I said, I'd like to start this side project. And so I really didn't take Deepest Darkest as seriously in terms of a time commitment until fairly recently. So I almost feel like we're a new band, but yeah, we've been around for a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, like at least the concept has
and on paper.
Yeah, and what was really cool is because you've got the 3 EPs, which are just conveniently named EP 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And from the start, there's clearly a sound there. It's all recorded really well. It's all executed really well. I mean, play us something new. It was I always try to go back from the very beginning and go in chronological order. And I was listening to it. I was just like, this is how we're starting. And everything from there really, really held up. It is definitely I want to call it pop rock, but I don't want to at the same time because, I mean, the energy is there. It's very driving. It's very at certain times it gets a little melancholic, but for the most part, it's really it's just tight. But the thing that stands out to me the most, that having listened, because I listen to everything, listen to all 3 of the EPs
Thank you.
And the single. And what I really like is that the music in it, every single song takes you on this really interesting sonic journey. There are these moments and times where the song just kind of morphs into these moments in time. On every single one, it was a recurring element of all of them. And just, it had these elements that earlier rock had. That was a really big thing. So you mentioned already, Zeppelin does it a lot. For me, even earlier stuff like Cream did it really well. Oh, yeah. And there were all these moments and times in your music where the music just kind of removed you from the song for a moment and just kind of put you in this moment. Yeah. And I thought it was really, really cool.
Thanks. Yeah. I appreciate that. Those are all things that I've aimed to do. And we have always, as a band, appreciated dynamics. We love getting quiet and then getting loud.
Yes.
We like to, shift gears a little bit. And yeah, like Led Zeppelin, huge influence for me. It's not a band that I put on their records all the time now, but it was super formative for me. Just, hey, let's change directions. And, the Ocean is a song that I've always loved from Led Zeppelin. You got this one feel that's the majority of the song, and then they go into this like this 6/8 thing at the end, just out of nowhere, and that's not something you hear now too much.
No, and that was the thing that I really appreciated, because even though it had that the playing, the sound, the actual like elements of it audibly feel very modern. Like they don't like, it doesn't feel like you were trying to take this old progression or these old elements and just do them again. Greta Von Fleet, is that what it is? Am I getting that right?
Oh, but they've never heard of Led Zeppelin.
No, never. But at the same time, even though it has this new feel, there is that element, that energy of like the earlier sounds of rock, and that is kind of the coolest parts of it. So it's really nice to hear like that energy brought into the modern day and like cared for. Yeah. Also, this is just for me. There is a line in I've Been Thinking, Boy, that was my senior quote. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is it an Abraham Lincoln quote?
Yes, it is. You knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
That I heard that. I was like, I have to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm bringing this up. So
whatever it is,
be a good one. Yep.
Yeah. That's my mantra. And that song was written about my oldest child who was trans. And, when they came out, it was a really just crazy time for them. And for us too, a lot of wild stuff, just reactions from folks. And, the song is about that. And, for me, like whoever you are and whatever you do it well.
Yeah.
And that is what they've done. And the song had everything to do with it.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
Yeah. Now, I am curious to know, out of all of the music you have available, what are some of your favorite tracks to perform?
Well, it's always the most recent ones,
Fair.
And currently, we have this song called "Wait for Me" that I am just thrilled about. I love. It's been tracked. We're working on getting it released very soon, and it's just every time we play it, I'm just like, this is everything I ever wanted, and I felt like that about other songs too. But right now, it's that one.
Gotcha.
And then there's probably the second on the list for me is one of our oldest songs, which is called "Hell's Where You Left Me," and for whatever reason, it just feels good to sing, to play. The band is so comfortable with it. We're just sort of like, it just feels like home.
Yeah,
and it's it's also for me one of my favorite. Lyrically, I always think about it when I'm singing it, which is kind of not the case necessarily with every other song. I don't think about the lyrics while I'm singing them, but that one I do. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Where in your set list does that track usually end up?
Usually early.
Gotcha.
Because it's a pretty mellow song, and I almost kind of think of it as a warm-up. I want to feel comfortable. We want to feel comfortable. It's nice to put that early to like let everybody know it's going to be okay. In the band, we're letting ourselves know it's going to be okay.
No, I dig that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense just having something where it's like, you're like, we got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing to do. Sometimes you want to, give people an uppercut right at the very beginning, and sometimes we'll do that too. But I much rather feel comfortable, and we're not uppercut in the face sort of band.
No, very, very much so. Very much so. Now I want to take a moment and I want to zoom out. I want to look at kind of more music as a whole. What are some things you're listening to right now that you enjoy, you're finding inspiration in at the moment?
Yeah, I mentioned Spoon earlier, and I've been listening to was it Lucifer on the Sofa, I think is what it's called. And I can't stop listening to that album. I know it's been out for a couple of years, but I really, really dig it. And then, you know, a lot of the things I listen to are, you know, my friends' bands. And I have so many amazing musical friends. Camp Crush, you know, we played that show recently with them. I have had the privilege of listening to, you know, all of the new songs that are on their upcoming record.
Oh, exciting.
And that's just phenomenal. I love everything they do. It just always sounds so good. They're such talented friends. And but yeah, and I still, I'll put on Simon and Garfunkel, and I could listen to that every day of my life. And you know, I just appreciate everything about them too. So, but yeah, right now it's kind of oh, here's one. Everybody needs to listen to Half Moon Run.
Ooh.
They are Canadian, and I got to see them live at the Wonder Ballroom last year, and it was bonkers. They're absolutely phenomenal. They blow my mind, and I couldn't believe there weren't more people there.
I get that. I get that. I got to see, this is before the Doug Fir closed. I got to see this group called it's Tennyson, Tennnyson, or Tennyson, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
And I think they are Canadian as well. There's a lot of talent in Canada.
Yeah.
We need to get up there. But they very much, I was super excited for the show. The tickets were like a reasonable price. I was like, all right, there's got to be a pretty, and I got there and there was maybe like 30 people. And I was just like, how? How do more people not know about this incredible music?
Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about music is that if you've heard of them, that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
There are so many bands out there, and I've also seen a lot of folks that are wildly talented just say, you know what, I don't really want to tour, and I'm fine just like playing my local venues every once in a while and blowing everybody's mind, and that's what they want.
Yeah.
And that just means I get them all to myself.
Exactly.
And so, there are so many amazing groups out there. Rock and roll is not dead. It is well, and
especially here.
Yeah. Oh, there's just so much, and you could spend every night of the week listening to great music, that is absolutely true of probably a lot of cities. So
At least metropolitan cities.
Yeah.
And you can check out all of them 5 days a week on here. Because I have still, after 350 plus interviews, I have yet to even begin to run out of people to talk to. It's incredible.
And you won't.
Yeah. Oh, that is the goal, is to never run out of, there will always be people to find.
Yes.
But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. And before we move on to the next part, this next question is probably the densest question in the interview. But we've talked about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Music it's got so many layers to it, that I really call it a superfood.
I love that.
I mean, it really does it all for me. I love listening to it. I love, seeing it live. That's a completely different experience than listening to an album, which is, I love both of those things. It can enhance everything, from movies and TV to just hanging out at a restaurant with friends. And but then the most important thing for me is it's my church. I mean, it's my social group. It's my my inspiration. It's everything. And the friends that I've met in music are, many of them will be my friends until I die. I mean, I've known some of the people in music that I still play with regularly for, several decades.
Yeah.
Nat Johnson in Deepest Darkest with me. I've known him since we were really children.
Yeah.
And we have seen each other multiple days out of the week since then.
Yeah.
And we play in multiple bands. It's like it's such a part of our lives that that it's like maybe it could go away, but we'd still be friends, and it's because of music. Andy Uppendahl, who plays in drums in Deepest Darkest, I've known him since I was, I think, in high school, and he was in a different band, and I was worshiping this band. I was like, this is the coolest band ever. 5 O'Clock People was the band, and and it was just, then he gets in my band, and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. But again, like we knew each other. We're family almost, and we interact like family, and we do social things together, and we play music together.
Yeah.
And we support each other, go to each other's shows, root for each other. When I have friends who win 2 Grammys, Ryan Lewis, we celebrate them. And, when we see somebody's bummed out, we say, hey, how's your project going? Oh, it's not, I don't know if I should keep going. No, you need to keep going. We encourage each other. And so, and my wife and I go to so many live shows. We go to festivals. We, are a part of the whole thing together. So it's together. We just, music is everything for us.
Yeah. No, it sounds like there's a huge sense of community that kind of runs all the way through that.
Massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's not community if it's, not 2 ways. Like we're all giving, and we're all, taking, we're celebrating it. We're part of the events that happen. And we're making it too. People are making music, and creating this whole thing. It's not like it's, just a passive thing.
Yeah.
People have to spend real time out of their lives to create the thing that we're going to see. And and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, very much so. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions. And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
Currently alive.
Yes. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Okay. Well, I mean, Rick Rubin seems really interesting to me.
Yeah.
He's been a part of my favorite records. But, he's also a weird man, I think.
Yeah.
I'm always, weird people I just really enjoy. And, but I just want to, be around that and like figure out what is it that he's able to extract from people that makes some of my favorite records.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the number one for me.
That makes sense. So definitely,
Yeah.
that is not the first time he has been the answer to that question as time is progressing. But yes, I mean, for all the reasons you said, it makes perfect sense.
Right.
And also, I just want to know what he actually does in moments. Like, because, we've seen all the things on like the internet and the like conversations he has, and he's just like, yeah, I just sit there and I tell a guy to do with it. But like,
and he's laying down on the ground or something like that in the video, and you're like,
and they only painted that as the like, look at this weird man.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's doing more. You know what I mean? Like in the thick of it.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
it's more curiosity. I mean, I'm sure he does great work, but what is he doing? What is he saying? And how does he react when an artist is, struggling on something, and how does he get that, extra out of people?
Yeah. Yeah. Rick, if you're watching, come on the show. We'll do an honest conversation.
Yes.
And then subsequently, and this might be a tough one, who's a local artist that you're aware of that y'all haven't gotten to like share the stage with yet, but you would like to?
Let's see. I haven't shared the stage with them, but the Weather Machine is one of my favorite bands, and I had a chance to record some trumpet for them.
Oh,
so
exciting.
I kind of feel like we're almost there, but I just love their band so much. And every time I've seen them live, I've just thought, oh, that would be a fun thing to be a part of. And they're amazing storytellers, amazing musicians, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second answer to that, Haley Johnson. She's to me the biggest, greatest talent in the Portland area, and I would feel very lucky to share the stage with her.
Yeah. Well, shout out Haley. And everybody, you know what to do. Add all of them in the comments. Let's see if we can get that to happen. And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere.
Okay.
Where would you want to perform?
Let's see. Let's think. Let's think really wild. So I recently took a trip with my brother and my dad to the Wallowas, and we went up the tram. That's I can't remember the name of the mountain, but we got up to the top, and there was a wedding happening up there, and everybody had to go up this tram, and I think that it was the most picturesque thing, and I thought that's amazing, and it could be like the Beatles rooftop performance, only Oregon style, on a mountain, and maybe like some IPAs in a solo cup, in everybody's hands. I mean, that would be pretty wild, and outdoor acoustics are interesting, but I think that could really be fun.
Yeah, no, I think that is actually a really cool answer. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, could have put out an album yesterday.
Got it.
Who would you want an album from?
Okay. I'm going to say The Police.
Ooh, good answer.
Because I love Sting. I love The Police. But I think I need like 5 more songs from The Police to feel complete. And they have a great catalog, but I need 5 more.
No, that's a really cool answer. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and July?
That's a great question, and the answer will be we're hoping to get an album out. We're close. We're just kind of getting through the mixing phase, and we'll master it. Who knows? It might be EP number 4. That would be very boring to name it that, but once you sort of get on the rails with that sort of naming convention, you almost have to keep going with it.
Oh, don't even get me started. I'll tell you a story off camera. It's a fun one.
But maybe it'll be a full length record. I'm guessing it's going to be an EP. We might break it into 2. We're really excited about that. We're working on putting together some shows. Fun little tidbit about Deepest Darkest. We have never played outside of the Portland area.
Oh, wow.
And that was by design. I told anybody, hey, if you want to be in my band, I'm not going to make you put up posters or travel outside. But things have changed, and we kind of want to do that. We want to play outside the area, and we've been working on setting up kind of some tours around the outskirts of Oregon up into Washington. So be looking for us out in Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon, Washington, at the coast. That's what we're working on right now.
Oh yeah, well, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah.
For this next one, then go and look straight at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Hey, we are at Instagram at Deepest Darkest 4, and we've got a website, deepest-darkest.com.
Hell yeah, easy enough. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
I just appreciate having me on the show. I appreciate all the musicians that we get to be around all the time. Again, Camp Crush, Ants.
Good name.
Strange and the Familiars, Caitlin Convery, Jacob Van Auken. These are all some of my favorite people and some of my close music buddies. Stay in Portland and check out the music. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, very much so. All right, now with that being said, I've got one last question to go.
Yes.
But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second. As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Okay.
But in all of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? It's a bit of a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
Well, I'm going to go to, Ben Folds 5 is one of my favorite bands, and their first album, I think it's just called Ben Folds 5, is one of my all-time favorites. My wife and I, when we met, we listened to that. It's got Jackson Cannery on it, is one of my favorite songs. And phenomenal record. I could listen to it right now. I think I'm gonna when I
Okay. Hell yeah.
on my way home.
Hell yeah. Well, that's a super solid rec. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
you bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy,
I'm Nate.
and we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.